Hey everyone, happy Friday. It's Joy Division Friday here. So, I had such a great response from the video that I posted most recently talking about working with the Fallen Angels Oracle. And I felt a little bit inspired to do a few more videos talking about working with specific decks that I enjoy connecting with and the ways in which I've connected with them and what's felt helpful with them for me personally, etc. So some of these decks may be ones that, a lot of you feel like are super easy to work with. Some of them may be ones that you guys have had difficulty connecting with because it seems like there are some decks out there that people are finding in general to be difficult to connect with, but they don't want to move the deck on from their lives. They would like to at least try to connect with them. And so I am more than happy to share just some various ways that I've connected with decks that are special to me, or at the very least hold a special place in my heart over the years. So I am going to do the Alice the Wonderland Oracle today, and I don't know, I don't really keep up with what the general public response and feels are for certain decks. I just don't, I'm busy, and it's not something I get to spend a lot of time working with. So I don't know if some of you have found Alice the Wonderland Oracle difficult to work with. But I do think sometimes Jasmine Beckett Griffith decks, her artwork, people can struggle perhaps with how to incorporate them into readings. For some of us, it's super easy. For others, it's a little more difficult. And I think specifically with this deck, I just wanted to share what I found this deck to be the most impactful for, and in regards to. Because for me, it took a little bit to really connect with her at the level that I'm connecting with her now. So I first purchased this deck, I believe it was around this time last summer. I'm sure if you scroll back in the channel, there's a video just talking about, opening. I think I might have done a reveal or first opinions, etc. And I'm not sure if I did a review, so this can also serve as a review for you. And I really, for the most part, enjoyed the artwork. And then worked with her for a few months and then kind of put her aside. I reconnected with her last winter around January when a lot of things in my life changed personally. And I worked with she and I believe it is the Fairy Tale Oracle by Jasmine Beckett Griffith and Lucy Cavendish, and I will also do a video on that in this little kind of series, because these are both two decks that I think really work well for inner journey work and for shadow work, the big thing that it's become kind of cliche in the community at this point, but which I think is actually something that has a great deal of value. So what I have found with Alice the Wonderland Oracle, and I've only recently really started to bring her into client readings, which if you've purchased a video reading over the last week and a half, you've actually probably had me use this deck, because I think I've used them in almost every video reading I've done. And there's something really, this deck I have found it to be very clarifying in client readings. But when I say clarifying, it can tend to have, at least what I have found, a more shadow aspect in the connection with it. So it can tend to lean more, in my experience with her, in a shadow direction or a clarifying for, what your blind side might be in a situation, something you don't want to look at, an aspect of yourself that you don't necessarily want to acknowledge, or that may be motivating a situation that can make you feel uncomfortable. So there's this piece that shows up in readings for people when I use this oracle deck as a clarifier. What I have primarily used it for is personal work, and so this video is going to speak more to that aspect of working with this deck. The other thing is, I do think you have to, well, I don't think you have to. I think if you have an appreciation for Alice in Wonderland and you've actually read the stories, not just watched the movies, which are very different, you can, I don't know, I think you kind of come in with an extra level of appreciation, because Alice's story is actually in a lot of ways quite adult and unsettling. And if you know anything about Lewis Carroll, etc., then there's also a lot of layers there to childhood aspects of abuse and things like that. So when you work with this deck, there's layers there. First of all, there's the card image, which some of them Jasmine has, you can tell has very specifically created certain images, and then some are older ones that I think were pulled in for, to create this, because each card obviously has to have some type of Alice theme running through it. So there's the layer of Jasmine's artwork, which I will show you images of now. Then there's the layer of each card has a quotation from the book in the card meaning. So not only do you have the image, and then you have your keyword and your key phrase, like 31 is believe, strange encounters. Then you have a quotation from the book for you to ponder. You have a few paragraphs of card meanings, or of the meaning of the card for each card. And then you have the divinatory meaning and the reversal meaning. So this deck does call for reversals, and I have actually found when I don't use reversals in this deck, I don't feel good. It's like I can't really work with the deck. She likes to have reversals, and some of you may know that I do not always use reversals when I read with a deck, but for this one I do. So there's multiple ways to approach connecting with this deck. I don't think it's the easiest deck to just whip out and pull a card from and like have your answer to something. I do think it's a deck that, perhaps not to the same extent as Fallen Angels, but to an extent does require you to hang out with it a little bit, to spend some time with it, and to, I love this image, to connect with her, or she can be unsettling. And I say that because I think when you see Jasmine's artwork at first glance, you may think you're dealing with something very like light, love and light, la la la. There's actually a lot of pieces in Jasmine's work that can be, that can encourage you to do a little soul searching. But this deck itself, in some ways, is unsettling. I think unsettling is a good word, but I mean that in a positive way. It's unsettling in how it can encourage you to do inner journeying. So it's not a deck for the faint of heart necessarily, and it's not one that's gonna sing for you at first glance. It does require you to spend a little time with it. Most decks do. I mean, let's be honest, if you want to get something out of a deck, it's a relationship. You have to build a relationship. So the first way that I'm going to talk about working with this deck is daily draws. So this deck is a beautiful addition to a daily draw collection. I love that one. So some of these are older paintings, as you can see, like this one, I don't like it. I find it jarring when they throw in different time periods of her artwork, even though I understand it's a larger deck. So you may find that jarring too. I do find that to be jarring. So you can see now we're getting into where I put some reversals in. But here's another older one. I find it jarring with the depth of, with just how much her technique has grown. It feels a bit jarring. So first we will go into daily draw. So I'm going to walk you through this as if you've never done a daily draw before, and I will read to you the card meaning and talk to you about how I would connect with the deck in regards to a daily draw. I'm doing this because I've found in my mentoring programs this year that a lot of people are feeling like they're not getting enough out of their personal card practice. So this is like a little mini way for you to look at and access how to have a better depth of experience with your personal card draws, not just reading for other people. So this is like a 2-for-1 here. And if this is redundant, then you can just skip ahead to this part of the video. So I'm just going to ask that we draw whatever card whoever is watching this needs to know in their life right now. Okay, so that's the intention. Like I said, there are reversals in the deck, and we will pay attention if there is a reversal. We're going to honor that. Okay, and it's that one. Okay, so we have card number 11, changed in the night. You have changed quickly. So you can see that this is a play on a Bosch painting. And it's also Alice. So there's a few levels with the artwork. So the first thing that I want us to pay attention to in the daily draw is what we are feeling while we are looking at the card image. So Alice looks a little perhaps forlorn. There may be a little bit of sorrow in her face. And we know from the key phrase, changed in the night, you have changed quickly, that there's been a shift of something for her. We see some demons in the background. You know, we've got flying fish, we have these fantastical creatures, we've got some people moving on fish. Some of these creatures are blowing horns. So there's this feeling of, and then in the back we can see almost this vulture nest with a crow or perhaps a vulture sitting on the tree. She's in a landscape that is rural. So perhaps she's come to a place where she doesn't understand where she is on her journey. And she's just experienced something and she knows that there's been a shift, but she doesn't have the whole picture on what that's going to look like for her moving forward. So if I'm doing this for a daily draw and I'm seeing all of this in the image, the first thing that I can feel is that I may have a sense of being a fish out of water through this day. And perhaps I might feel uncomfortable or unsure of where I am in my journey and why, the reasons why I may be having a certain experience. There's also a small black bird with a red jewel hanging from its beak in the front of the image, and to me that's a listen to your guides message as well. So as part of how I move through this feeling of the day, I may indeed choose to stop and have a conversation with my guides or just talk to one of my guides while I move through my day. And if I was sitting down and having this as my personal time with my cup of tea in the morning, I might even take a moment to ask which guide was working with me on this today so that I can make sure I consciously connect in with them as I move throughout the day. And you can do that whether you are a professional card reader or you're working a regular job or you're doing whatever. A part of your mind can still connect with these energies and have conversations. So don't feel like you can't do that through your day if you're not somewhere you feel you should be on your journey, okay? So we've used our intuition, we've kind of gotten those muscles going with our daily draw, we have a feeling for the deck, for the card pull in the deck, and now we can explore the card meaning. So we'll look it up, and I'm going to read it to you, just in case you don't have the deck or you're not sure how you want to work with it. So this is the quotation from Lewis Carroll, this is the card meaning, and then we have the divination, and if it was reversed, the reversal. I'm not going to bother with the reversal today, and there's a reason for that. It's because I haven't drawn a reversal, and I'm using reversals in this deck. This deck is also kind of serious, and so I don't like to overload myself with information in a daily draw, and I don't need to read the reversal unless I feel prompted to read the reversal, and we don't need to read the reversal today. So this is where if I have a journal and I'm doing my daily draw, or I have time to access my journal in my daily draw, I would pull my journal out so that I can kind of do some journaling on what's coming up for me while I'm reading the meanings and what I've seen in the card image. So the quotation is, "Dear, dear, how queer everything is today, and yesterday things went on just as usual. I wonder if I've been changed in the night." And now here's the card meaning. Sometimes we change slowly. A little change here, a small adjustment there, tiny shifts day by day, and over time we grow into a very different version of ourselves. But at other times we feel like we have been changed in the night. Our day might suddenly, without any warning at all, be very clear indeed. For Alice, and perhaps for you when you receive this card, there is a sense that so very much has changed in an instant that the world has quite suddenly been turned upside down or right side up. And we have not had a moment to grow used to this new reality, the way we now are, or the rules of the world we find ourselves inhabiting. When a time like this comes, we can be in shock, a little numb, and have trouble finding our way back to the center of ourselves. If you feel you may have been changed in the night, that your life has changed quite dramatically, quite suddenly, then take a moment. Remember your values, your feelings, yourself. Look about you, steady yourself, and breathe in deep. You've been rocked, and your sense of self and of reality is going to take a little time to resettle. Continue to connect with your core self. Be good to you and take it easy, but steadily. Remember, you are finding out who you truly are. Until this moment, you only knew who you could be when faced with certain predictable circumstances. Now that so much has changed, you will find out so much more about yourself, and in time, this will enrich you so very much. Now, our divination for the card. Sudden, unexpected change, a shock, unexpected news, adjusting to a new situation, finding out more about who you are, inexperience and uncertainty, and identity crisis due to changed circumstances. So you can see how each piece is a little bit different than the one before it while still connected. So this is where, if you are really going to do some shadow work, this deck can be a lot of help. For a daily draw, this could feel, for some of you, maybe a little bit jarring. So where I'd like you to come back to in this meaning is the sudden unexpected change and finding out who you are through the change. So if this is in regards to a daily draw, my divinatory meaning lets me know that there's probably going to be something that happens throughout the day that I'm not planning on, that I can't control, and for whatever reason, it's part of my journey, and I need to come back to who I am and understand that it's helping me learn more about myself through the process. This is where, as we said, through looking at the card, communication with spirit guides can help greatly throughout the day, or deity, or whatever you would like to call that. Your angels, wherever you are on your spectrum of spiritual beliefs, use whatever title you would like for those energetic beings that support and guide you on your journey. Now, where you can move into journaling with this, and this is where we go from a daily draw to a deeper inner search, is at the end of the day to sit and journal about what happened throughout the day, how you experienced that, and what that brought up for you. Has a core part of you changed? Did a piece of you that you didn't realize could handle something step up to the plate? Did you feel something you weren't expecting to in an experience? Did it bring up a crisis of sorts for you within? Has it shifted something in your life, in how you are going to choose to move through the world going forward after this day, this moment, this experience? So the deck itself is asking for you to, in my opinion, to really take a journey with it and to spend your time examining where your shadow is. I mean, really, to me, it's a deck for shadow work. It really is. I very rarely get a card that's like happy-go-lucky, easy, la, la, la. It's all more like, what's the motivation behind this? Why is this coming up? Caution, pay attention, be aware. What's actually going on here? Who are you now? We're looking at some type of abrupt change. And in some ways, we could say that there's a bit of the tower in this card, right? Where you're being called to look at something that may make you feel really uncomfortable, maybe scary, maybe painful, and yet it's time to have that come up into the light to be looked at. So that's how you can look at this, at working with this deck in a daily draw situation. And it's also where you can bring shadow work in if you'd like to go even deeper with your card draw for the day, because you can carry that throughout the day and then get into the nitty-gritty of the experience, what that was and what that brought up for you. So there's a lot of, again, I'm going to use that word, layers of experience you can choose to have with this deck. You can have a plain no nonsense, whatever experience with this deck if you want, but in my opinion, there's so much more to be gained from actually sitting with the deeper meanings of this deck. And it does require using your guidebook. This is a deck where the guidebook comes in a lot of handy because there are so many different pieces to each card meaning. It gives you a lot of layers to work with and pieces to pull from. And you may choose on any given day to only read one portion of that, like you're in control of this aspect of the relationship, but it gives you a lot of potential here. So let's talk about working with this deck in a oracle and tarot card draw situation. Okay, so far I've found that the Alice in Wonderland Oracle likes to work with Fabio Lestrani's Night Sun Tarot. So we're going to do this. And I'm going to do we'll just do a 3-card spread. And let's say we're asking about a relationship. And I'm going to use this as a clarifier. Let's say we're asking about the longevity of a current relationship for someone. Now, this is a sample reading. You may feel or find it to be impactful for your own personal life. That's perfectly fine. It can also be that too. So what we have are the Ace of Pentacles, the King of Swords, and the Magician. Our clarifier
is the Alice the Wonderland Oracle card number 24. Use your time well, make every moment count. So first of all, I'm going to talk about the tarot card meanings, and then I'm going to discuss how we can use Alice the Wonderland as a clarifier in a reading, or even as the main deck in a card spread. So we can see that there's an opportunity here for new beginning and abundance to be experienced in the relationship. It may relate more to a sense of being grounded, of working together for goals in the relationship, and for creating more financial stability in the couple's life. With the King of Swords showing up, I would offer, if I was reading for a querent whose partner was male or identified as male, the King of Swords is showing up to say, this is also a time to really be focused on understanding, communication, and decision making. So the couple would want to communicate clearly about the structure that they're building and take time to really understand each other, to make sure that they're understanding each other. Now notice that I just said the word make time, and the Oracle card is use your time well. The Magician is letting us know that they also already have the connection and the tools with them right now already. They don't need to go off searching for something else to connect more deeply and create stability in a long-term relationship at this time. How they do this is through the combination of as above, so below, earth and air. We already have those two elements here. It's through the grounded stability and communication, connection to the spirit side of things, connection to their own soul, their soul purposes, their soul purpose together as a couple, and what they want to create together. How do they use these tools to build on this new, fresh energy to allow the communication to be clear and allow the relationship to continue in its longevity? And that's where the clarifier comes in with use your time well. And this is where we don't need to look up the card meaning here, because we're doing a reading. We understand just from the picture itself and the Cheshire Cat that time can get away from them. They may not be very well at, they may not do very well, at budgeting or, giving priority to time spent together, quality time, not time watching movies together on the couch at the end of the day, but instead actually really valuing each other, valuing time spent together, and making sure that that's on the calendar for both of them so that they can communicate clearly to each other where they both are. Quite possibly someone has recently undergone a significant change in their circumstances and in their sense of self. That's about to shift for the positive for them, but they've got a lot to unpack here. And so for the partner who's having our reading, we would say it's very important for them to be aware that there quite possibly has been a big emotional, spiritual shift for their partner, and time does need to be set aside for them to connect and process as a couple, as well as for that partner to share their experience. So you can see how Alice in Wonderland works as a great clarifier. I'd also like to, I'm just going to move the camera now so that you can see me. I'd like to draw attention to the fact that this was a pretty clear, spot-on message. It wasn't sugar-coated. It wasn't sweet. It was just like, use your time well. You really want to make this work. You want to create longevity in this partnership. You have to plan for time together. You have to make sure it's quality time, and you have to value each other enough to show up and put the time into the relationship. So as I said at the beginning, this deck has a really clear kind of message. It doesn't waste a lot of time in readings like this, okay? So I will do one more sample spread of ways in which you can work with Alice the Wonderland Oracle. And if you're finding it hard to get clarity from it, I don't. Like I said, it's pretty much bam, up front in your face in a reading for me. But if you struggle with that, bring it down to the core message when you're working with the card in a spread. It's not... Self-work is a time to get that guidebook out and dive into it. In a spread, short and sweet with this deck, at least in my opinion, to the point is what works best. So, okay, so let's say that we are doing a reading let's say we're doing a reading for ourselves and we want clarity on our career. What is it that we need to know about our professional career right now? What does Alice the Wonderland have to say to us about that? We have card 33, I want to be queen, card number 28, nonsense, and card number 42, mortality. So what we're being encouraged to know here in this card reading in regards to our career is that it's time to take the bull by the horns. We are being called to take charge of the career, to step up, to state our sovereignty, as I Want to Be a Queen says, to declare what direction we want the career to be heading into, not to be complacent anymore. If we're working for ourselves, it's time to add fresh energy to the career. It's time to bring more to the plate and to condense and solidify our goals and our big picture. If we are working for someone else and we're looking to move up in the company, this is the time to state your gifts, to put yourself out there, to allow those who are in positions of authority in the company to see, to know, to understand just how much you bring to the table and what you want in the future, how you would like to advance in the company. It's time to talk sense. This means it's time for real conversation. So we're taking dreams and goals and we're solidifying them because there's only so much time. Mortality is saying, this is your life. Don't be complacent here. Let's step up to the plate. Let's start fully engaging in career. So if we've been afraid to do something, scared to do something, this spread is telling us it's absolutely time to do it. It's time to take the bull by the horns, to do what we've been dreaming of doing. And how we do that is by taking those steps. By, first of all, having the steps, not just the dream, but concrete steps of actions we can take to move in the direction of what it is we want to experience with career. If you're looking at this as a reading for you, as you're listening to me doing this, which I know some of you felt in the last video, and you've been longing to start your own business, this spread I would consider an encouragement to do that, okay? So you can see how we talked about working with the deck personally, but we can also see how through the spreads, things get really clear, finite. The answers can be sharp, to the point, but important, necessary. So it's a deck that has, again, it holds duality within it. This deck holds duality within it for me because it really pushes you into shadow work, and it also really kicks you in the butt and lets you know the truth. So, which is a part of shadow work, but there's more of a to the point aspect of that in a reading, and the shadow work piece can really let you dive into questioning aspects of yourself and exploring aspects of yourself. I would say primarily this deck is concerned with truth. What your truth is, how you experience it in the world, and if that's shifting for you. So this is how I've experienced the Alice in Wonderland deck. And I have a lot of joy now in working with her. It is one that I approach with a great deal of reverence because, again, the answers are very clear. And if I'm in a really sensitive space and maybe not able to process something fully that I might need to hear, it may not be the best day for me to decide to do some journaling with this deck. However, if I feel like I am in a space where I can really hear those messages and I want those messages, this is the deck that I reach for now for that. There are other decks in that process as well, and we will talk about those decks too in this little series. But this one is one of those decks that I reach for. So I hope if you've been struggling to work with Alice in Wonderland Oracle or just needed some tips and pointers on working with this deck or a deck that features artwork like this in general, that this has helped. It's wonderful as always to connect with you. I hope you guys are having a wonderful day. Much love, many blessings. See you in the next video.